Another question that a lot of people sent in a question about. Well, another issue that a lot of people sent a question about. I have an email here sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Eric in Nashville. What are your thoughts on the controversy between Bruce Prichard and Nick Aldis? Apparently, Bruce said Aldis didn't have the it factor. I saw the response on Twitter, and we have a couple of things here. But I haven't followed it that closely. I like Aldis. I think he's a good, solid wrestler. Maybe not overly flashy, but he gets the job done. And Bruce comes off as an ass kisser for the WWE. So what are your thoughts on Bruce? I have Aldis' response here, but what are your thoughts on Bruce saying that Nick Aldis doesn't have the it factor?
Well, I hate to go full on fuck you without hearing the context or the quote from Bruce, but without hearing it in his voice, because I don't know how you could say that Nick Aldis doesn't have anything, let's put it this way. Look at some of the fucking people on WWE television and tell me that they wouldn't rather have Nick Aldis than some of those people in those spots. So Aldis is not flashy. That's the whole idea. He's very flashy because he's always well dressed. He dresses like a champion. He really did a great job over the past few years of building some credibility behind the NWA belt. He's got size. He talks well. He looks good. His work is good. I don't know what else Bruce is looking for. Is he Stone Cold Steve Austin? Maybe not. But it's not like Bruce is sitting on top of 40 of the greatest wrestling stars in the history of the fucking world, that he should be saying a guy that looks like that. We can say an old whorehouse, the guy that fucking, worked with Cody last week on All Friends Wrestling, he don't have it. He don't have it, shit, or anything else related to IT. But to say that Nick Aldis at that size, with that look, with that level of experience, can talk like that and fucking works like that, doesn't have it, what the fuck's he thinking? I don't know.
Is it Aldis or Aldis?
I don't know.
I don't know either, yeah.
I usually say Aldis, except if somebody says Aldis in front of me and it puts it, but I think it's Aldis. Nick Aldis.
Like Mike Lano. Mike Lano's been called Lano.
Lano. He's been called a lot more things than that.
He's been called a lot more things than that. Here's Nick Aldis' response on Twitter.
All right.
Hold on, I have to open this in an incognito window. He's blocked me, apparently.
What did you do to Nick Aldis?
I don't think I've done anything. I don't even think I've ever mentioned his name once ever before this conversation. But it must be when I was shitting on Dave Lagana in the past, or...
that could be.
Because I'm associated with you. Who knows? But
did he block me?
Either way, who gives a shit? But here's his quote in response. Hi, Bruce Prichard. Your ignorant comments about me had me at an all-time low. Kind of like your Raw ratings.
Oh!
However, there are a few Hall of Famers that seem to have a different opinion, some of which are even featured below. And then there's a video here, I guess, where he has several people talking about how great he is, but then he also tweeted out a quick note on this whole Bruce Prichard thing. I don't like online feuds and being controversial or outspoken, and this isn't about some guy with a podcast criticizing me. Lord knows I've had that before. It's the executive director of the market leader of my industry. I don't need Bruce Prichard to be a fan of me or expect him to have kept up with my stuff, but because he hasn't, I think he used too many buts here. If that's the case, just keep my name out of his mouth. Don't try to deliberately devalue someone and their ability to make a living. So that's his response to Bruce's apparent comments.
Because Aldis is a proper British gentleman who's saying fuck you in a nice, friendly way. Friendly wrestling and now friendly tell-offs. But I mean, once again, you never know whether it's Bruce's opinion or whether Bruce is just saying, something because that's what Vince thinks. Because Bruce, I've said this before. This is a telling story in a conversation, a private conversation just between the two of us. Actually tried to defend the fucking Red Rooster thing as not being either a rib or a shitty gimmick. Still was, if Terry had embraced it, no. No, just admit there's only two of us here. I'm not going to fucking tell anybody. Well, 25 years from now on a podcast, I will. Just admit to me it was fucking stupid. He won't. So I don't know. I have no idea.
You were in Impact briefly, or I don't know I guess it was Impact by that point in time when Bruce was there, and you were in MLW.
Well, remember I fired him.
That's right.
So we were ships that passed in the night. Literally, that was the first segment on the first show, and Bruce left immediately afterwards. So we were together for about 2 hours.
And you were in MLW after Bruce had left. Did you hear one positive thing from anyone in either group about Bruce's ability to identify talent or work with talent in a contemporary wrestling setting?
That's a loaded question, because I don't remember anybody at MLW bringing Bruce up positive or negative. It wasn't like, boy, we sure do miss Bruce. It wasn't like, God, we're glad we're rid of Bruce. Nobody mentioned his fucking name. I have heard other people say that maybe they thought we were friends. I would get hot or whatever. I don't know. I've had other people say that and heard other people mention, including some of the people in MLW administration, that Bruce didn't work well with their product, with their guys, because he wanted them to do more shit more the way that you would do it in the WWE. That's his frame of reference. He for whatever reason, he forgot everything he learned in Houston when he went to the WWF, and he's done that shit that way ever since. Which, not to say that's good or bad or whatever, but in MLW, they wanted to do shit differently. And now I know there's a bunch of people out there about Cornette, what are the Lucha Brothers? Well, they didn't have me working as an agent on any Lucha matches, because that's not my forte either. But I worked with Lawler. I worked with the Von Erichs, not Jerry, but Filthy Tom. The Von Erich brothers, the Dynasty, Hammerstone and Holiday and MJF, those guys, I worked on some of their finishes and quite a number of their promos, because that was my forte. Whether the heel stable of the Dynasty or the young baby faces, Little Green and the Von Erich's side, where you can throw a few smoke and mirrors in, or giving Filthy Tom some pointers on how to use his shooting in a more pro wrestling situation. And everybody seemed happy with that. I didn't hear anything when I was there for the week at Impact, except for me and Dutch Mantell and a few other people joking about how I've always wanted to fire Bruce. Nobody brought it up again. Now that can be good or bad. It's like nobody missed him, but nobody was baking a fucking cake that he was gone.
Well, a few people were, but I have different sources than you.
They didn't bring it out in public. There was probably some cake eating that night at the hotel.
There was a lot of cake going around, and they enjoyed that cake.